Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and we are celebrating Honeybee Stamp's February release. And for my card today, I am using the new Penny the Platypus stamp set and the Cheerful Sentiments stamp set. So I started off with these two balloon images in the Penny the Platypus stamp set, and I just stamped them onto a little stack of post-it notes that are completely wrinkled up because I left a wet cloth that I was cleaning stamps with and wasn't paying attention. So I kind of ruined the edges of them, but they still work. So I had 3 of them stacked together, and I just stamped the balloons onto the top layer, and then I'm trimming them out with my detail cutting scissors. Just cutting kind of in the middle of the line. You don't want to cut outside the lines at all because you don't want to create any ghosting. Because I would planned on stamping the balloons along the top of my card and masking them off. So I've got 3 masks of each balloon here, and what I like to do as well with my masks is to kind of line them up and use them as kind of a visual guide so I can figure out how I want to stamp these images. So once I was kind of happy with what I was planning on doing, I'm going to start stamping the balloons with some VersaFine ONYX black ink onto the smooth side of some distress watercolor paper. So these are the pre-cut 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch pieces. And I chose VersaFine ONYX black ink because I plan on watercoloring in all of these balloons, and this is one of my favorite inks for stamping when I'm watercoloring. So there's also these 2 really long balloon string images in the set as well. I really like them. They're just, they're not just straight. They're not just boring. I kind of like the fun direction they go in. So I just go along and I'm stamping the balloons, and then I'll stamp the balloon strings with that VersaFine ONYX black. I did originally think about, that's why I had the Simon Says Stamp Barely Beige ink out. My original plan, I was going to stamp the balloons in that and do almost like a no-line watercolor effect, but I decided against it just because the strings wouldn't have shown up, and there's strings on the main balloon image, and for me I was like, that would be just too difficult. I'm like, I could outline the strings again like in a black pen or something, but in the end I just decided to stamp everything in black. I thought I like how the black will pop when I go in with the watercolor. So I masked some of the images, stamped everything, and then once I, filled the top of this card with balloons and I had all the strings stamped, I went with my go-to distress ink colors, the 3 that I use all the time, and that's Picked Raspberry, Mustard Seed, and Mermaid Lagoon. And I actually just smushed them onto the stamp packaging. I've used to show this all the time. You don't need a fancy palette or anything else. Just something that's non-porous, and stamp packaging works fine because distress inks will just wipe right off of it, no problem. And I smush those 3 inks close together because I will use the 3 colors as is, but then I will mix them to get my secondary colors. So I've got my pink and then orange, green, pink, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. So rainbow order. And since I had that 1 extra balloon, my last one, I kind of mixed the purple and just added more pink to it just to, kind of start going back towards pink. So these are just, I love it. I can't say how many times now, how many videos I've done, and I'll have more coming using just these 3 distressing colors. I like having all of the colors, but you can get a lot of mileage out of just those 3. So after I was done watercoloring in all of those balloons, I took pumice stone distress ink and just smushed that down and just added it really lightly around the balloons just so it wasn't a, stark white background. So I would just add it closer to the balloons, and then I would just pull it out with my water brush and it would just fade out to white. So I'm going to set that aside to dry. And then I stamped one of the little images from the stamp set onto just the scrap of distress watercolor paper. So I'm going to watercolor this gift with those same colors, and the base of the gift I'm going to do, pink to orange to yellow. And then the ribbon, I'm going to do the green to blue to purple. So it's all, matchy-matchy. And then I just loved how the gift turned out. And I was like, oh, if I had the time and the effort, I would get some wrapping paper like that, and I think it would look so pretty. So here I just wiped off the stamp packaging with that, with a baby wipe, so it's all clean and ready to go. And then I pulled out some Neenah Solar White Classic Crest 80-pound cardstock, Copic friendly cardstock. And I used my mini Misty for this because I had a feeling I would have to stamp this image more than once. This platypus image is quite big. And because it's a new stamp, I wanted to make sure I got a really good crisp image. And this stamp I am inking up with my favorite things, Extreme Black Hybrid ink. I'm using Copic friendly ink on Copic friendly cardstock. I do not like using VersaFine ONYX black with Copics. I find that it will smear. So that's why I changed my ink, changed my cardstock. This is what works best for me with any like alcohol based markers. So you can kind of use the same ink and the Distress if you want, but I just find it soaks up too much of the alcohol ink, and I prefer using the Neenah Solar White. It's just the best cardstock I've ever used for Copics. And either MFT's Extreme Black, or there is Simon Says Stamps Intense Black as well, and Hero Art's Intense Black. Those three are my three go-tos for Copic marker coloring. So I am just coloring this image in really quick and easily with Copic markers. I've got the colors here listed on the screen that I used. I started with his little bill and his feet, and then I went in and did his body, and keeping the color, you know, concentrated more towards the outer edges and then lightening it up until I bring it more towards the center, just to give it a little bit of definition. And also, when I was looking at images of, you know, little platypus images, that seemed to have like kind of a lighter area on their stomach, so I'd left that lighter and then would blend the color kind of towards that and then outwards. So after I was done coloring in this image, I kind of fixed a few little areas that I had gone outside the lines with my colorless blender. And then I just went along with my white gel pen and added a few little highlights here and there, added little dot details to his eyes, and then added just kind of almost like a little bit of detailing around his fur and whatnot. So once I was happy with all of those details, I also outlined his eyes and his nostrils with one of my black envelope addressing pens that is super black. And the platypus, the coordinating die set, die cuts the image as well as die cuts right around his little, I guess you'd call them arms, wings, arms, yeah. So that he can hold all the little images in the stamp set. It's the cutest thing ever. So I set that aside though, because when I was doing that, I was thinking about the balloons still on this set in the background that I had done. And I pulled up my Nuvo clear glitter pen. So I'm going to coat the balloons with that, and because they're Distress inks, it is reactivating the colors. So I'm just trying to be really careful not to go outside the lines, and I wipe off the brush tip before I go on to the next color, because it is reactivating that color and kind of moving it around. But I thought it would just give it that little extra something for all of that shimmer with this. So I just kept going along, filling it in, and then wiping off the color before going on to the next balloon. And then I'm going to turn on my little flashlight on my phone here so you can kind of see the shimmer. And as it dries, it's not quite so shiny, you know, wet looking, but it just has that gorgeous, gorgeous sparkle. So I also die cut that panel with the largest of the A2 double stitched honey cut frames. And then I adhered that to my light gray cardstock base with some foam tape. And I had heat embossed a sentiment from the Cheerful Sentiments stamp set onto some black cardstock. And I popped the sentiment as well as the platypus up with some foam tape as well. And then for the inside of the card, I had built another sentiment with all the words in the Cheerful Sentiments set. I say this like a broken record. That's one of the things I love about Honeybee and their sentiment sets, is there's just so many possibilities to build all kinds of sentiments. So I'm going to stamp the sentiment with the VersaFine ONYX black ink on the inside of the card, and that finishes off my card. So I will have a link below the video to the blog post with links to all the supplies used. All that info will be in the description box below to check out if you are interested. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting on my video. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.